Getting back to Tefilah.
Great.
All right, so we left off. We did Elokeinu, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. So now, what comes next in Tefilah?
Why did you say there's no malchus in the first?
What are the next words? HaGibor, HaGadol. Okay, so where does that come from?
Pasuk and Dvarim, I think.
All right. All right. So it says in the Torah, "Ki Hashem Elokechem Hu Elokei Elokim v'Adonai Adonai Makel HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora." Shelo Yisafanim Lo Yikach Shoka. What's amazing is that what Chazal did when Moshe Rabbeinu came up with this shevach. Okay. Look what Chazal did with this. So look at the Gemara on source number 2. All right. What does HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora mean? By the way, the God who is
mighty.
Right, so those are the literal translations. But if it was as simple as that, then the next thing the Gemara says wouldn't be wouldn't be an issue. Who's reading the Gemara?
I'll read it.
Okay.
Hahu denachis k'mei derabi Chanina.
All right, so some guy got up there and did what? He started, basically he's being mispal, but he started reciting something. What did he say?
Side view, can I say God's name?
Amar, Hakel.
Amar, Hakel, HaGadol, HaGibor, V'Hanora, V'Adir, V'Ha'azos,
Yirui, Chazak. Okay. So what did he do? So the guy just started rattling off. He started with Hakel, HaGadol, HaGibor, V'Hanora, and just kept rattling off shvachos.
Rattle off.
Right, famous Gemara, right?
You got in trouble.
Oh, he's about to, right. So he just rattled off, he kept going, okay? All right, so what do I say? Is that such a bad thing?
Beautiful.
Right.
He doesn't sound.
So what does the Gemara say? So hintim lo. So he waited. So Rebbe Chanina waited until.
Hamzin lo ad desiyum, ki siyum Amar.
So once he finished, Amalei said to him.
Sum tenhu l'chulho shavchi debar.
All right. So he's asking. Now you gotta again. This is a tone thing. Okay. He's asking sarcastically. Are you done? Are you done? Anything more? Anything else? One more shabach maybe? Another shabach? Keeps going. Lama li kuli hai. Why do you have all these what do you call all these shvachos? But why? 1 second. So why not? Why not? Why not have all these shvachos? What's wrong with that?
You start rattling them off and you're limiting it.
All right, good. Okay, so Anan, keep going.
Anan, honey, tell us.
So how many do we have? 3, right? Gadol, Gibor, V'Hanora. That's all we have, right? Elav,
Demarinu, Moshe Rabbeinu, Beraisa, Asi Anshik, Nesagedola,
Tefilah. So if it weren't for the fact that Moshe said this in the Torah, and Anshik Nesses Gedola took what Moshe said and put it into Tefilah, in other words, they took it and institutionalized Gadol Gibor V'Hanora, Lo Havin and Yechol L'Meimer Lahu. We would have no matir, not just to say the extra ones, but even to say that per se. Even to say HaGadol Gibor V'Hanora, we'd have no permission to say such a thing. That Amris Kulia Hai V'Azlich, and you say all these things? All right, so what's the problem here? What's the issue? Yeah.
The problem is that the only.
Mixed in with the halachic approach, which is that there's okay, but the problem, I agree with that. You're right. So mixed up and making a good point. Halachically speaking, it's like anything else in halacha, right? They institutionalized, they gave a specific shiur, and that's it. But if that were the case, the Gemara should never said what Moshe Rabbeinu said. There's another element that you're missing. The Gemara could have just said, "Who are you?" Anshe Knesset Gedola said, "All you can do is say these 3." And you're saying more, but it says, "Had Moshe Rabbeinu not written this, and then Anshe Knesset Gedola took that and put it into the halachic system." So what's the other point about Moshe Rabbeinu? What's it telling us?
That it wasn't possible for him to use adjectives to describe God.
Okay, good. All right.
It's not a normal. It doesn't sound like something that he could have done.
Right. So no. That's good. Don't be so hesitant. That's good. So what's the idea? So mix basically there. But what's the idea? So what's the notion? This is something that bothers people a lot. But what's the notion of that we learn from Moshe Rabbeinu by HaGadol Gibor V'Hanora? By the way, as a side note, but related to this, the Gemara always goes back to Moshe Rabbeinu as being the most, as the best person when it came to Tefilah. And yet his Tefillahs are in general are very what? Short. For instance, Hashem Hashem Kel Racham. Right. That's actually, as you're saying, the best one. The one they always turn to is Kel Na Rafan Allah. That's all he said. All he said was, God, please, cure her. And they use that as like the paradigm of what Tefillah should be like. But Anshe Knesset Gedola needed Moshe Rabbeinu to do what he did.
I'd say that Moshe is the number one guy. I would say that that's. I don't know. It sounds kind of silly to me, but that don't you're smarter than Moshe.
Well, what's the
you know more? But
Moshe was the only one who really.
Oh, well, but he gave shvachos HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not like he never did. But you're right. Yeah. Johnny's making a good point. Johnny's saying that that if we're going to be okay, so but what you're saying is based on a premise, all right? What's the premise that's built into what you just said? The premise that's built into what you said is that the ability to give Shavach to God in itself is an insane challenge. Why? Why is it difficult to give Shavach to God? What?
Don't know him.
Right. There's whatever we say is going to be what?
What Moshe knew him the most.
Inaccurate.
Speculative.
Limited.
Yeah, limited
Right?
and
I don't know if inaccurate is the right word, but
Off the boats.
Anthropomorphic.
right. It's anthropomorphic. It's limited. So because of that, so it shows you. What does it show you? It shows you that it can be a very dangerous thing. So so therefore, we turn to the one person who if anyone would have that, he'd have the ability to create such a Shabbat. There's only Moshe Rabbeinu who could have the ability. So that's why we start off with what he said. Even if, before we get into what the pshat of Gadol Gibor Menorah is, the point is that we have to turn to the one human being who had the means to be able to actually come up with some sort of Shabbat. And look what a Shabbat was. Gadol Gibor Menorah. That's it. It's so small. That's it. Just 3 words, right? God, who's Gibor Gadol Menorah. And it shows you every time you give Shabbat, it's always a limiting thing. Which leads to what the criticism is of this guy. What's the criticism? It's twofold. One is, halachically speaking, listen, there's a shira. But it's also that...
How do you know?
Right, what right do you have? Right. You have no right to go ahead and express all these shvachos. You only have the right to express a very limited praise to God. That's it. When you enter into that area, it's a very limiting thing. We want to believe the opposite. We want to believe that I can pour my heart out to God and say whatever I want. But you see, it's not such a simple thing. Shevach is a very dangerous area. So Chazal limit what we are able to say. But with that point in place, what are we saying when we say a Gadol Gibor Menorah? Right? Don't just say what ArtScroll says, which is, whatever ArtScroll says. What do those words mean? So it's interesting. 2 nice pshatim that exist here. Well, that I found. One is the Sforno, one's the Avodah Zarah. All right? Since you've been reading so nicely. Sforno.
What
does that mean? Shein nimsa shavalo b'madregos min mitziuso. What does that mean? Well, take it word by word. Is not found.
Shavalo.
Equal to him.
Levels.
Someone min mitziuso. Species, mitzius, reality. Now you have all the words translated. What's he saying?
It's still in the
What? No, you can't put it together.
No,
So Gadol, he's saying, is that there's, insofar as what real is, nothing, or I should say even existence, because Metzius usually means existence, but there's nothing as real as, the reality of God is a different type of reality than anything else. God is, you can't compare existences, our existence to God's existence. God, what?
Isn't that similar to Kadosh?
No, Kadosh is separate. It's a little bit different here. He's saying that nothing is equal insofar as reality of existence. So that's the first idea that's Forno is saying. He's saying that Gadol means big, but what does that mean? Okay, so God's big, great. So he's saying it's that he's as the Rambam puts it, he's the necessary existence. There's no existence like God. That's the first thing you say in Shavach. Why would that the first thing you say in Shavach? What does that do to you? Well, it's true, but on a psychological level, you're right. But philosophically, what does it do? What?
It
depended on God.
More than that.
Right.
Frame of mind. But how?
Saying how you like your own existence with your frame of mind.
Because you realize insofar as Tefilah goes, that God is the necessary existence, He can do anything.
Right, good. Okay, so, which is similar to what he's saying also. In other words, you're putting you in the right frame of mind, right? And you're right. In other words, you have to recognize what your existence is relative to God, right?
Humble mode.
So it's amazing. So, but think about it. In other words, what's the Shevach? It's a funny thing. It's not. So if you look at the other Shvachos, you'll see the Sforno's got a very nice thing. The other, and the Avodah Zarah is going to say the same thing. This type of Shevach is not what you consider praise. Like when we say Gomel Chasad and Tovim, or we say Rofech Cholim and Matar Asurim, those are Shevachs. Those saying, like, God, you're great because of so and so. But this isn't saying God is great because of so and so. What is it saying? It's defining what the greatness of God is. In other words, the first Shevach you give is you must define how God is great. Then you can start giving the adjectives. You know, He does this, He does this, He does this, He does this. Those are the actions that God does, so to speak, that reflect His greatness. But first you have to define the greatness per se. Gadol Gibor Menorah. So the first one is Gadol, that God's existence is a necessary one, and our existence is qualitatively different. Yeah. It's amazing that you see from the Sforno how much he was affected by, I'd say mainstream rationalist Jewish philosophy, because it's like straight out of the Rambam and Albo. You see, he says, what's Gibor? Gibor is Albo. Yitzchak Albo, Sefer Yikarim. So, yeah. What did I say? Oh, sorry, Yosef Albo. Well, one of your forefathers. Anyway, so he says. So what is now? What is Gibor? Gibor means what does he do? He's a necessary existence, but yet at the same time, what does he do? Hamekayim kol metzius b'mtziuso. It's we exist because of his necessary existence. In other words, our existence. This is the dependent line. First, you have to recognize that there's a qualitative difference. There's us and God, but then you have to understand, in a sense, lahavdil, how our existence is related to him. How are we related to him? Because in a sense, God could shut the switch off and we cease to exist. In other words, being the necessary existence, he controls our existences. All right, that's step 2. Yeah. So the second idea. Now, but by the way, but as a segue from the echad, I mean, think about it. I mean, look at the Sforno is telling you, and we'll get to the Avodah in a second. Right? I mean, how many people are actually thinking about this when they daven? Gadol, Gibor. When you say is Gadol, okay, he's great and powerful, and Nora's what? Wonders, awesome, right? All right, that sounds nice. But you see that obviously Chazal had a different intention here. It's not just simply to say the words, but there's a meaning behind each one. Look what the Sforno is telling you. The Sforno is telling you that when you say Gadol, Gibor, Venora, what are you really doing? You're establishing what the nature of God's existence is and how far removed you are from that existence. And how you depend on it.
What's it
That's
really
profound. We say V'atam Mechayas Kulam. What does it mean Mechayas Kulam? It means that God, it's because God exists. Exactly. Existence comes from him. Okay? Now what's the third one? Nora? Wow. So now why does he say that? That's Nora goes back to what we were saying last week. What's Nora? What's Noah telling us?
Awesome.
No.
That he interacts with us?
Yes. Mashgiach l'shalom v'lanosh. Then what does he do? He interacts. What? Good question. I get that. But I'm saying in the scheme of Tefilah, it's beautiful. Because first you recognize that what God's existence is. Then you say, okay, well, we only exist because of God. And then what's the next step you take? And remember, that was the theme from last week. It always comes back to Hashgacha. Just because we're a dependent existence, that doesn't mean that God has to relate to us in any way. So we say Norah means that God chooses to relate to us. Or the term I like to always use is that God is invested in our fate. He's invested in us. Lahabdil. But he is. He's concerned, in quotes, about man.
This is the third one established sentience. It's possible you can have a dependent existence that's not up to God's. I mean, I guess we're defining really God.
Just because we're dependent doesn't mean God is involved in our existence. It could be that we're dependent.
Theoretically, God could, be bound. I'm saying like God could be bound to his own perfection, blah blah blah. And he's dependent and it's not up to.
There's nothing necessary in God that forced him, so to speak, to be involved in man. But he is. He is. Okay. Oh, now look at the Avodah Ram. I'll end up with this. He says he has a different shot, but he sticks with. He's not as divided as the Sforno. He says V'efshar Sharamaz. It's in source 4. V'efshar Sharamaz b'shalosh lashonos elu l'shlosha olamos. Okay, so this actually refers to the 3 worlds. Shehem olam elyon. So you have the. Well, how would you define olam elyon? Thank you. The metaphysical realm. V'hu olam hamalachim v'olam hatichon. Right? And excuse me, olam lachem. Then you have the olam hatichon, the olam galgal mekochavim. Now it's a little it's a little unclear today how we hold of the olam hatichon, because again he believed back then, which was the common belief, and we say this in davening, tovim ma'oro shabar lakenu yitzarim b'das b'vina v'askel, which is always very strange because planets can't have bina and das, but that was clearly the belief was.
Wait, what?
Okay, we say tovim ma'oros shabara elokenu. Yitzaram bedas bevino v'haskel. Koach gvura nasam lahem lios moshlim mekarateva. But we know from physics that that's not really the case.
Wait, haven't you said that he created with us? Isn't that how you read
Oh, so that's today. That's how they define it. But it's clear back then. If you look at all the Rishonim, which by the way made a lot of sense. If you believe in the geocentric model, you look up in the sky, and what do you see? You have there's Earth, that man being the center, Earth. Then you have the skies, right? So as you move further away from Earth, you get more abstract. So they believe that the planets had knowledge and chachma, and they had control. Because what made the planets go around the way they did? So they thought that each planet had its own, like Jupiter was some sort of intelligence. And then you go to a further level, which is a non-physical intelligence, malachim, and then you hit God.
But doesn't Schroeder hold that though?
Yeah.
So he says, and what's the third world? Olam HaShafav, who Olam HaMaisim. Okay, that's this world. So he says there's 3 worlds. Okay, but let's put aside the reality of each, the notion of the Olam HaGagalim. There's the Olam HaTichon, which is basically the upper spheres. Okay, not the metaphysical world, but what we would call the universe, but what they thought was the world of the planets and the stars. Okay, and then there's the Olam HaShafa, which is the natural world. Okay, so he says HaGadol, right? He says HaGadol connected Olam Malachim. Okay, and he says Gibor Kenega Olam HaGalgalim and Nora Kenega Olam Maisim. So, but what is he saying in all these things? All right, he's saying that, yeah.